The massive Imperial scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its sleek hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Inside the ship's command center, Captain Reed of the Galactic Empire smiled with satisfaction. Another primitive world to add to the Empire's ever-growing collection of colonies. At least, that's what he thought. The ship's sensors began screaming warnings even before they crossed Neptune's orbit. First Officer Wilson rushed to his captain's side with a puzzled look on his face. "Sir, we're detecting extensive artificial structures throughout the solar system. There are massive energy signatures coming from every major planet and moon." Reed frowned. This wasn't what their long-range scans had shown. The Empire had observed this system for years, watching the primitive radio signals and basic satellite networks. Everything had indicated a Level 2 civilization, barely capable of reaching their own moon. But what they were seeing now? "Full scan of the system," Reed ordered, his confident smile fading. The holographic display lit up, showing something that made his blood run cold. The entire solar system had been transformed into an interconnected defense network. Quantum barrier generators orbited every planet. Automated defense platforms hung in precise formations. Mining operations that should have been primitive outposts were instead heavily armed bases. On Earth, Admiral James Walker stood in the United Earth Defense Force Command Center, watching the Imperial scout ship's movements on his own holographic display. Around him, dozens of operators monitored their stations, tracking every slight adjustment in the alien vessel's position. They had trained for this moment for decades. "They've noticed our outer defense grid," one of the operators announced. "Their scan patterns show increasing agitation." Walker nodded, his weathered face calm despite the tension in the room. "Maintain alert status, but take no aggressive action. Let's see what they do next." The Empire's scout ship pressed forward, but more cautiously now. As they passed Jupiter, they encountered their first surprise. The gas giant, which their old scans had shown as a simple planet with a few research stations, now bristled with massive orbital rings. Quantum energy signatures pulsed from structures bigger than continents, and automated drones swarmed like angry bees around fortified space stations. "This is impossible," Reed muttered, staring at the readings. "Their technology level. It's far beyond what we expected. These energy readings match our own military installations." The scout ship's sensors continued to reveal more surprises. Mars, which should have housed only a few basic domed colonies, had been transformed into a fortress world. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter wasn't just a collection of mining operations. It was a carefully arranged minefield, with countless automated defense satellites hiding among the rocks. Back on Earth, Walker received a priority message from the President. "They're still approaching. Sir, should we initiate contact?" "Not yet," Walker replied. "Let them come a bit closer. Let them see exactly what they're dealing with." The Imperial scout ship reached Mars orbit, and Captain Reed made his decision. According to Imperial protocol, any civilization this advanced needed to be approached with a show of force. They couldn't risk appearing weak. "Prepare for atmospheric entry," he ordered. "We'll bypass their orbital defenses and establish a ground presence first." That was exactly what Walker had been waiting for. "They're making their move," he announced to his command staff. "Initiate defense pattern Alpha." The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Quantum barriers sprang to life between Earth and the approaching ship, layer after layer of shimmering energy fields that made the Empire's best shields look primitive. Hidden defense platforms emerged from their stealth fields, weapons primed but not firing. A fleet of Earth's ships decloaked, their designs unlike anything in the Empire's database. Reed stared in shock at the sudden appearance of so many defensive systems. His ship's sensors were overwhelmed by the quantum signatures, and warning signals blared as their systems detected weapons locks from multiple directions. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was technology that in some ways surpassed the Empire's capabilities. "Sir," his first officer called out, voice shaking, "we're detecting over 300 weapons locks. They're quantum signatures. They could punch through our shields in seconds. Walker watched as the Imperial ship froze in space, caught in the web of Earth's defenses. He opened a channel, broadcasting on all frequencies. Imperial vessel, this is Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force. You are approaching a sovereign world without permission. Your attempt to bypass our safety protocols has been noted. This is your only warning. Reverse course immediately. The message was clear, professional, and backed by enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Reed felt sweat running down his back as he assessed their situation. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds, but they had never encountered anything like this. A civilization that appeared primitive one moment and revealed itself to be a technological powerhouse the next. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "I'm detecting quantum entanglement signatures we've never seen before. Their targeting systems are operating on principles that our computers can't even analyze. We were completely at their mercy." Reed made the only choice he could. All engines reverse. Get us out of this system. As his ship began its retreat, he already dreaded the report he would have to make to Imperial High Command. They had come expecting to find primitives ready for conquest, and instead discovered a civilization that had somehow hidden its true capabilities from the entire galaxy. Walker watched the Imperial ship's retreat with grim satisfaction. Around him, the command center erupted in cheers, but he raised his hand for silence. "This isn't over," he reminded them. "That was just a scout ship. The Empire won't take this lying down. But we've shown them that humanity isn't the easy target they thought we were." As the Imperial ship disappeared back into hyperspace, Walker turned to his communication officer. "Send word to all our hidden observation posts throughout Empire space. Tell them to remain alert but maintain their cover. We might need their intelligence very soon." The first contact with the Galactic Empire was over, but Walker knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, building up their defenses and developing technologies in secret. They had watched as the Empire conquered world after world, learning from each invasion and preparing countermeasures for everything in the Empire's arsenal. Now the Empire knew that Earth wasn't the primitive world they thought it was. They knew that humans had somehow managed to advance their technology to rival or exceed Imperial standards without anyone noticing. What they didn't know, not yet, was that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Humanity had more surprises waiting if the Empire decided to push their luck. Walker looked out his window at the peaceful Earth below, its surface showing no sign of the massive defense networks protecting it. Somewhere out there, an Imperial captain was racing back to his superiors with news that would shake the Empire to its core. Earth wasn't just ready for them. Earth had been waiting for them. And the next move in this cosmic chess game would determine the fate of both civilizations. The Imperial Palace on New Roma was in chaos. Captain Reed's report had caused an emergency meeting of the High Council, and now the Empire's most powerful leaders argued about how to handle the situation on Earth. The massive chamber, with its towering columns and ancient artifacts, echoed with raised voices and demands for action. High Commander Marcus stood at the center of the storm, his aged face showing no emotion as he read through the scout ship's sensor logs for the 10th time. The data made no sense. How had Earth hidden its true technological level for so long? More importantly, what was he going to do about it? "We cannot allow this insult to stand," General Peters shouted, pounding his fist on the marble table. "A single world dares to challenge the might of our empire. We should send the entire Third Fleet to show them their place." Marcus looked up from his displays. "The Third Fleet? Did you even read Captain Reed's report? Earth's defensive capabilities exceed our current military technology in several areas. We need to think carefully about our next move." The council chamber grew quiet. It was rare for the High Commander to speak so directly about Imperial military limitations, but the evidence was clear. Earth had somehow developed technologies that the Empire's best scientists were struggling to understand. "Then what do you suggest?" asked Admiral Blake, her voice calmer than the others. We can't simply ignore them. Every world in the Empire is watching how we handle this. Marcus nodded slowly. We send an official delegation. Make it clear that this is a diplomatic mission, not a military one. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we make any decisions. 2 days later, Ambassador Robert Ward stood in the gleaming white conference room of Luna Base, Earth's primary diplomatic facility. Behind him, a team of Imperial scientists fidgeted nervously as they waited for the Earth delegation to arrive. Their ships had been carefully scanned and escorted through Earth's defense network, a humbling experience for the usually dominant Imperial forces. The doors slid open, and President Thomas Gray entered, followed by Admiral Walker and Dr. Anna Thompson, Earth's leading quantum physicist. The Imperial delegation rose, and Ward stepped forward with his most diplomatic smile. "Welcome, Mr. President. The Empire extends its greetings and—" "Let's skip the formalities, Ambassador," Gray interrupted, his voice firm but not unkind. "We both know why you're here. You want to understand how we achieved our current technological level without the Empire noticing. Then you want to deliver your ultimatum about joining the Empire or facing the consequences." Ward's smile faltered. He hadn't expected such directness. "Mr. President, I assure you our intentions are purely diplomatic. However, you must understand that the Empire cannot allow—" "Cannot allow what, Ambassador?" Dr. Thompson stepped forward, her eyes sharp. "Cannot allow a civilization to choose its own path. Cannot allow the existence of technologies that rival or exceed Imperial standards. Please, be specific." Instead of waiting for Ward's response, she gestured to a nearby wall. A holographic display sprang to life, showing technical readouts that made the Imperial scientists gasp. It was their own FTL drive design, but with modifications and improvements they had never considered. "This is one of our earlier experiments," Thompson explained. "We've since moved on to more efficient methods. Would you like to see our current quantum computing facilities, or perhaps a demonstration of our antimatter containment systems?" The Imperial scientists crowded around the display, their earlier nervousness forgotten in their excitement. Ward watched with growing concern as Earth's representatives revealed technology after technology, each one showing a deep understanding that went beyond mere copying or theft. "How?" one of the Imperial scientists finally asked. "How did you develop all this without anyone noticing?" Admiral Walker smiled. "Simple. While the Empire spread itself thin, conquering world after world, we focused on understanding rather than expanding. Quality over quantity, deep mastery instead of broad control." President Gray nodded. "We watched and learned from the Empire's example. We saw how you ruled through technological superiority, so we made sure that when you finally reached us, we would be ready." Ward cleared his throat. "Mr. President, regardless of your technological achievements, the Empire's position remains clear. All civilizations within our sphere of influence must—" "Must what?" Walker cut in. "Must submit. Must give up their independence. I don't think you understand the situation, Ambassador. We're not here to receive your ultimatum. We're here to give you one." The room grew very quiet. Ward felt a chill run down his spine as Walker activated another holographic display. This one showed thousands of points of light scattered throughout Imperial space. "These are our observation posts," Walker explained. "Perfectly cloaked, monitoring every major Imperial installation and fleet movement for the past 30 years. We could have struck at any time. Instead, we chose peace." Ward stared at the display in shock. If this was true, Earth had compromised Imperial security more thoroughly than any other civilization in history, and they had done it without anyone noticing. "So here's our position," President Gray said, his voice level. "Earth and the Sol system remain independent. Any aggressive action against us will be met with an overwhelming response. We have no interest in conquest or expansion, but we will not submit to Imperial rule." The Imperial scientists were still studying the technical displays, their expressions a mixture of awe and professional jealousy. Ward could already imagine their reports to the High Council. Earth wasn't just technologically advanced, they had focused their development in ways that specifically countered Imperial strengths. And if the Empire refuses these terms? Ward asked, already knowing the answer. Thompson smiled. Then we demonstrate exactly why focusing deeply on fewer technologies is more effective than spreading yourself thin across many. Would you like to see the test results from our latest quantum disruption experiments? They're quite impressive. Ward looked around the room, at the confident faces of Earth's leaders, and the fascinated expressions of his own scientists. He had come to deliver an ultimatum, to remind Earth of the Empire's power. Instead, he found himself facing a civilization that had quietly prepared for this moment for decades. "I will convey your position to the High Council," he said formally, but everyone in the room knew the Empire's position had just shifted from one of strength to one of careful negotiation. As the Imperial delegation prepared to leave, President Gray had one last message. "Remember, Ambassador, we chose peace. We still choose peace, but we will not choose submission. The Empire must decide whether it wants Earth as an equal partner or as a proven adversary." Ward nodded stiffly and led his team out. As their ships carefully navigated through Earth's defense network, he drafted his report to the High Council. How do you tell an empire that has known only expansion and conquest that it has finally met its match? How do you explain that the primitive world they had planned to absorb had instead been watching them, learning from them, and quietly surpassing them in critical areas? The Empire would have to make a choice, and Ward already knew it wouldn't be an easy one. Earth had changed the game, and the galaxy would never be quite the same. Dr. Anna Thompson stood in the hidden observation post deep within Imperial space, watching streams of data flow across her screens. The facility, disguised as a small asteroid, was one of thousands that humanity had placed throughout the Empire's territory over the past 3 decades. Today, it would help deliver humanity's most daring message yet. The quantum computer core hummed quietly behind her as it processed information from hundreds of similar stations. Each post was a marvel of human engineering, completely self-sufficient, perfectly cloaked, and capable of monitoring Imperial communications across light years of space. "All stations report ready," her assistant called out. "We can begin the synchronized reveal whenever you give the word." Thompson took a deep breath. After the diplomatic meeting on Luna Base, the Empire had gone unusually quiet. Intelligence suggested they were planning something, but humanity wasn't going to wait to find out what. It was time to show their full hand. Back on Earth, President Gray sat in the Situation Room with Admiral Walker and the United Earth Council. The massive display covering one wall showed the positions of every observation post they were about to activate. Decades of careful planning had led to this moment. Dr. Thompson reports all systems are go, an operator announced, awaiting final authorization. Gray looked at each council member in turn, receiving firm nods from all of them. "Send the activation code," he ordered. "Let's show the Empire exactly what they're dealing with." Across Imperial space, in every major system and military installation, humanity's hidden observation posts began powering up their active scanning systems. The posts had always been watching, but now they would let themselves be seen. On the Imperial capital world of New Roma, alarms began blaring in every military command center. Defense systems that had never detected any threats suddenly lit up with thousands of unknown signatures. The Empire's most secure facilities discovered they had been watched for years by advanced sensors they couldn't even detect until now. High Commander Marcus was in the middle of a strategy meeting when the reports started flooding in. His advisors rushed around in panic as more and more installations reported the presence of unknown devices in their systems. "Sir," his chief of security called out, "we're detecting quantum technology signatures in every major military base, fleet anchorage, and government facility across Imperial space. They're everywhere." Marcus walked to the main display, his face grim as he watched the reports pile up. The devices were appearing in places that should have been impossible to reach, inside defensive perimeters, near classified research facilities, even in systems that were supposed to be secret. In her observation post, Thompson watched the Empire's reaction through their own communication channels. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "Transmit the technical demonstration packages." Every observation post began broadcasting detailed technical data directly to nearby Imperial facilities. The transmissions contained proof of humanity's technological achievements, quantum computing breakthroughs, advanced stealth systems, and most importantly, their innovative approach to FTL travel. The Imperial scientific community was thrown into chaos. The data they were receiving showed solutions to problems they had struggled with for centuries. Humanity hadn't just matched Imperial technology. They had taken different approaches entirely, sometimes finding better solutions than the Empire's best minds. Admiral Walker watched the Empire's communications light up with confused and panicked messages. "They're beginning to understand," he said quietly. "This isn't just about military power. We're showing them how much they could learn from us if they choose cooperation over conquest." In the Imperial Palace, the High Council gathered for an emergency session. The chamber that had recently hosted heated calls for military action was now filled with worried whispers and uncertain glances. "These humans," one council member said, "they could have attacked us at any time. Their observation posts are in perfect position to disable our key facilities. But they didn't. Why?" High Commander Marcus stood at his usual place, but his voice carried none of its usual authority. "Because they're different from us," he admitted. "While we thought about conquest, they thought about defense. While we spread our resources thin expanding our territory, they focused on perfecting fewer technologies." The council chamber's main display showed a continuously updating map of discovered observation posts. The number was still growing as more facilities reported in. Each post represented years of careful planning and technological achievement that had gone completely unnoticed by Imperial security. Dr. Thompson received the update in her hidden station. "Final count coming in," she announced to Earth's leadership through their quantum-encrypted channel. "The Empire has found about 60% of our posts, just as we planned." President Gray nodded in satisfaction. They had deliberately allowed the Empire to detect only part of their network, keeping the rest hidden as a reserve. "Send the final message," he ordered. Throughout Imperial space, the observation posts began broadcasting a simple but powerful message. "The Empire now understands that humanity could have struck at any time. We chose peace. We still choose peace, but we will not choose submission. The next move is yours." The message was followed by technical data showing just how easily the observation posts could disable Imperial facilities. Shield frequencies, power grid vulnerabilities, command and control weaknesses, humanity had mapped them all. But instead of using this information for attack, they were sharing it, showing the Empire how to fix these weaknesses. In the Imperial Palace, the High Council sat in stunned silence as they processed the implications. Humanity wasn't just powerful enough to resist the Empire. They were advanced enough to help it grow stronger, but only if the Empire was willing to approach them as equals. "They're offering us a choice," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "We can learn from them, grow stronger together, or we can face an opponent who knows all our weaknesses and has spent decades preparing to exploit them." Back in her observation post, Thompson watched the Empire's internal communications buzz with discussion and debate. The message had been delivered. Now they would wait to see how the Empire would respond. President Gray stood at his window in the White House, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's carefully placed observation posts were changing the balance of power in the galaxy, not through force or conquest, but through preparation, innovation, and the strategic revelation of long-held secrets. "Do you think they'll make the right choice?" Admiral Walker asked, standing beside him. Gray smiled slightly. "They don't have much choice. We've shown them that we can be either their greatest ally or their worst nightmare. Now they have to decide which they prefer." The next few days would determine the future of both civilizations. But humanity had done what no other species had managed. They had made the mighty Galactic Empire stop and think. And sometimes that was the most powerful victory of all. Grand Admiral Stone paced the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Destiny, as his fleet prepared for what he believed would be a swift and decisive attack. Despite the High Council's ongoing debates, he had convinced enough powerful figures that a quick strike against Earth's outer colonies would force humanity to submit. "Status report," he barked, watching as the massive fleet of 300 ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. "All ships present and accounted for." "Sir," his executive officer reported, "we're positioned near the gas mining colonies of Jupiter, well outside their main defensive perimeter." Stone allowed himself a small smile. The humans had revealed their observation posts, yes, but surely they couldn't have fortified every corner of their solar system. The gas mining operations around Jupiter would make perfect targets, valuable enough to hurt, but far enough from Earth to avoid their main defenses. He was wrong. Admiral Walker stood in Earth's command center, watching the Imperial fleet's arrival with calm expectation. "Right on schedule," he said to his staff. They took the bait. "Activate Jupiter Defense Grid Alpha." Around Jupiter, what appeared to be simple gas mining platforms began to change. Massive structures that the Empire had dismissed as industrial equipment revealed themselves as weapon platforms. The gas giant's powerful magnetic field, which humans had spent decades modifying, suddenly came alive with controlled energy pulses. "Sir," Stone's sensor officer called out in alarm. "The mining platforms. They're not what they seem. They're fortress worlds." Before Stone could respond, the first wave of attacks hit his fleet. The humans had transformed Jupiter's entire moon system into an interconnected defense network. Each moon housed quantum weapons systems that could target individual ships with terrifying precision. "Shields at maximum," Stone ordered, but it was already clear their defenses weren't enough. The humans weren't just firing energy weapons. They were using Jupiter's magnetic field itself as a weapon, creating targeted disruptions that played havoc with Imperial systems. On Earth, Dr. Thompson monitored the battle from her quantum computing center. "The magnetic field manipulators are working perfectly," she reported. "Their shields can't adapt to the constantly changing frequencies." Walker nodded. "Release the drone swarms." From hidden bays in the mining platforms, thousands of small, automated ships emerged. Each one was barely larger than a fighter, but they moved with perfect coordination, guided by quantum computers that could process battlefield changes faster than any organic pilot. Stone watched in horror as the drone swarms surrounded his ships. The small vessels didn't try to destroy his fleet. Instead, they fired precise shots that disabled weapons, engines, and communication systems. The Empire's mighty warships were being systematically crippled without being destroyed. "Sir, we've lost contact with the entire third wing," his communication officer reported. "The 5th and 7th wings report complete system failures. These drones, they're not targeting our ships for destruction. They're just shutting them down." In Earth's command center, President Gray arrived to observe the battle. "How many casualties so far?" he asked Walker. "None, sir," Walker replied with satisfaction. "The magnetic field disruptors and drone swarms are performing exactly as designed. We're disabling their ships without killing their crews." Stone gripped his command chair as another wave of magnetic pulses washed over his flagship. Half his fleet hung powerless in space, their crews alive but helpless. The other half was quickly succumbing to the swarms of drones that seemed to know exactly where to strike to disable rather than destroy. "This is impossible," he muttered. "We have 300 ships, the most powerful fleet assembled in this sector in 50 years. How can they be beating us without even their main fleet?" The answer came from his science officer, who had been analyzing the attack patterns. "Sir, they're not just using superior technology. They're using our own tactics against us, but improved. Every weakness in our designs, every flaw in our battle strategies. They've studied them all and developed perfect counters. Around Jupiter, more defensive systems activated. The gas giant's famous red spot, which humans had secretly modified over decades, began generating massive electromagnetic pulses that further disrupted Imperial systems. Even the planet's rings revealed themselves to be carefully arranged weapon platforms, each one targeting the increasingly desperate Imperial ships. Grand Admiral, his executive officer said quietly, "We've lost 2/3 of the fleet's combat capability. The remaining ships report their weapons are ineffective against even the smallest human drones. Your orders, sir?" Stone stared at the tactical display, watching as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by an enemy that seemed to have planned for every possible move he could make. This wasn't just a defeat, it was a demonstration. In Earth's command center, Walker received a transmission from the automated defense networks. Jupiter Grid reports 70% of the Imperial fleet has been neutralized. Should we proceed with full containment? Walker looked at President Gray, who nodded. "Proceed," Walker ordered, "but maintain the no-casualty protocol. Show them exactly what we could do, but don't actually do it." The remaining Imperial ships watched in amazement as the gas giant's atmosphere itself seemed to come alive. Carefully controlled storms created patterns of lightning that could have torn their ships apart, but instead just danced around them, showing what might have happened if humans had chosen to be less merciful. "This is Grand Admiral Stone of the Imperial Fleet." Stone's voice finally crackled across all channels. We request terms." President Gray stepped forward to respond himself. "Return to Imperial space with your disabled fleet, Grand Admiral. We'll even help you get there safely. Tell your leaders what you witnessed here today. Tell them how we could have destroyed your ships but chose not to. Tell them that humanity's weapons are precise enough to disable rather than destroy, and that we chose mercy over victory." As the defeated Imperial fleet limped away, assisted by human tugs and repair drones, Walker turned to his president. "They'll have to listen now. We've shown them that we can defeat their best fleet using automated defenses alone, without risking a single human life." Gray nodded slowly. "And more importantly, we've shown them how we fight, not for destruction or conquest, but for defense and preservation. Even when attacked, we chose to protect life." The Battle of Jupiter, as it would come to be known, lasted less than 6 hours. The Empire lost no ships or crew members, but they lost something far more important: their belief in their own invincibility. They had come expecting to find an upstart civilization that needed to be taught its place. Instead, they found an enemy that had transformed an entire gas giant into a fortress, an enemy that could have destroyed them, but chose not to. As Stone's flagship finally limped into hyperspace, he looked back at Jupiter through his viewport. The massive gas giant looked peaceful now, its storms and magnetic fields calm. But he knew the truth. Humans hadn't just built defenses around the planet. They had turned the planet itself into a weapon, and they had done it so carefully that no one had noticed until it was too late. The Empire would have to reconsider everything they thought they knew about humanity. And somewhere in Earth's command center, Admiral Walker was already preparing for their next move, knowing that this battle had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Imperial Palace had never been so quiet. In the week since Grand Admiral Stone's fleet returned from their disastrous attack on Jupiter, the usual bustle of court life had given way to tense silence. The High Council chamber, normally a place of heated debates, now held people who spoke in whispers, as if afraid to draw attention to themselves. High Commander Marcus stood before the Emperor himself, finishing his report on the Battle of Jupiter. The ancient throne room, with its towering columns and gleaming artifacts of 1,000 conquered worlds, seemed somehow less impressive now. "Not a single Imperial casualty," Marcus concluded. "They disabled our most powerful fleet without killing anyone. Our own analysts say it would have been easier to destroy the ships than to disable them with such precision." The Emperor, silent until now, finally spoke. "They turned down our offer of membership in the Empire. They humbled our diplomatic mission. They revealed they had been watching us for decades. and now they defeat our military without bloodshed. He paused, looking at the assembled council members. Perhaps it's time we considered a different approach. On Earth, President Gray prepared for what might be the most important meeting in human history. The Imperial flagship was approaching Earth again, this time under a flag of truce, carrying the Emperor himself. All defense systems are at full readiness, Admiral Walker reported, standing in the President's office. But their approach matches exactly what we agreed upon. No surprises so far. Dr. Thompson looked up from her quantum displays. The observation posts confirm no hidden Imperial fleets waiting in nearby systems. I think they finally understood our message. The meeting was set for the new peace station, built in Earth orbit specifically for this historic moment. As the Imperial shuttle docked, honor guards from both Earth and the Empire stood at attention, their diverse uniforms a stark contrast to each other. The Emperor stepped onto the station, for the first time in Imperial history meeting another species on their terms rather than his own. President Gray waited at the end of the corridor, Admiral Walker and Dr. Thompson at his side. "Welcome to Earth space," Gray said simply, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. The Emperor took his hand after only a moment's hesitation. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Recent events have caused us to reevaluate many things." They moved to the conference room, its windows offering a spectacular view of Earth below. The planet's defense grid was visible as faint shimming lines in the atmosphere, a reminder of humanity's preparedness even in this moment of peace. "Your successful defense of Jupiter was impressive," the Emperor began. "But what truly caught our attention was how you achieved it. You didn't just develop advanced technology. You found entirely new approaches to problems we thought we had solved centuries ago." Dr. Thompson nodded. "While the Empire spread itself across the galaxy, we focused on understanding the fundamental principles of physics, quantum mechanics, and stellar engineering. We chose depth over breadth. And in doing so," the Emperor said, "you achieved things we thought impossible. Our scientists are still trying to understand how you transformed Jupiter's magnetic field into a weapon. The precision of your drone swarms exceeds anything we've ever seen." President Gray leaned forward, "Which brings us to why we're here. Earth has no interest in conquest or expansion. But we also won't submit to Imperial rule. We're offering a different path. Partnership." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Partnership with a single world. With a world that has proven it can match or exceed Imperial technology," Walker pointed out. "A world that chose to disable rather than destroy your fleet. A world that can help the Empire grow stronger through cooperation rather than conquest." Dr. Thompson activated a holographic display showing various technological achievements. "We're prepared to share some of our advances with the Empire. In return, we ask for recognition of Earth's independence and the establishment of cooperative research and development programs." The Emperor studied the display carefully. The technical data showed solutions to problems that had plagued Imperial scientists for generations. "You would share this knowledge freely." "Not freely," Gray corrected. "In exchange for peace and cooperation. The Empire has mastered technologies we haven't even attempted yet. Together, we could achieve things neither of us could manage alone." Hours passed as they discussed the details. The Emperor's advisors and Earth's representatives worked through point after point, building the framework for a new kind of relationship between Earth and the Empire. Finally, the Emperor spoke again. "You could have used your observation posts to devastate our key facilities. You could have destroyed our fleet at Jupiter. You could have demanded our surrender. Instead, you offer partnership. Why?" Walker smiled. "Because that's who we are. Humans don't seek to dominate. We seek to understand. We don't want subjects. We want allies. We turned Jupiter into a fortress not because we wanted to fight, but because we wanted to be strong enough that we wouldn't have to." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Your approach is different from anything we've encountered in our expansion. Perhaps that's exactly what the Empire needs." The final document was called the Sole Imperial Accord. It recognized Earth's complete independence, established frameworks for technological and scientific cooperation, and created new protocols for interaction between human and Imperial ships. As the Emperor prepared to leave, he had one final question for President Gray. Your observation posts throughout Imperial space, will you withdraw them now? Gray smiled. Some of them. Others will remain, transformed into joint research stations. After all, trust is earned slowly, wouldn't you agree? The Emperor actually laughed, something his advisors had rarely heard. You continue to surprise us. Very well. To new beginnings. In the following weeks, the first joint human-Imperial projects began. Imperial scientists worked alongside human researchers, learning from each other's approaches. The Empire's broad experience combined with humanity's deep understanding began producing breakthroughs neither civilization had expected. Admiral Walker stood in his command center, watching the combined fleet exercises where human and Imperial ships practiced together. Strange, isn't it? He said to Dr. Thompson. A month ago, we were disabling their ships. Now we're teaching them how we did it. Thompson nodded. And learning from them too. Their experience with different alien technologies is invaluable. Together, we're already achieving things neither of us could have managed alone. President Gray watched from his office as the first Imperial trade ships arrived at Earth's new commercial stations. The mighty Galactic Empire had finally met a force it couldn't conquer, and in doing so, had found something better than conquest. Humanity had changed the galaxy not through war or dominance, but through preparation, innovation, and the willingness to show mercy even to those who came as conquerors. They had proven that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from defeating an enemy, but from turning that enemy into a friend. The stars shone brightly over Earth that night, and for the first time in centuries, both humanity and the Empire looked to the future not with thoughts of conquest or defense, but with dreams of what they might achieve together.